Here. Okay.
This is gonna be tough.
I'm Zach Clark.
And I'm Ian Wenger.
And this is Fifth Ward Brewing Company. About 4.5 years ago, I had some extra money saved up. Ian and I have been working together at Dublin's Irish Pub for, at that point, a couple of years already. I was managing their kitchen, and I had some money saved up, and I contemplated literally buying a boat or kind of starting to invest my money. And so then one time I was driving home from the gym, and I was driving by Dublin's, and I just swang in, just kind of out of the blue, and had the idea, it's like, well, maybe I should just invest in brewing equipment. And I walked into the back of the kitchen, and Ian was closing the kitchen still, and he was
Dishes.
and I said, hey, do you want to make beer with me? And then
neither of us were really sure what we were gonna do with our future. Like Zach said, he was making an investment, so we thought, let's see what it would actually take to make, to open up a brewery, kind of start doing legwork on that. And so it was pretty much right when we started brewing, we kind of started just looking into the details. Before we even brewed our first batch, we were looking up prices of kegs and
Chinese-made kegs.
Yeah,
so I started emailing Chinese manufacturers of kegs, and just no idea of what we were doing.
Emailing farmers where we were gonna dump our, massive amounts of spent grain and all that stuff early on. So big dreams kind of started out.
I had a roommate, Jared Sanchez, that went through the business program at UW Oshkosh. I kind of stole his textbook and wrote a business plan outline, and then
we had our business plan essentially written up to what we thought was going to be worth taking to investors, and we got in contact with the Small Business Development Center over at UWO. Our business advisor, Colleen Merrill, we met her very early on, brought our business plan to her. She sort of paged through it, kind of pieced out what we needed to sort of fix, what we needed to, what was good, what needed improvement. Kind of took her advice, went through and just sort of revamped the business plan as we went along, and as our ideas changed. Things like that. And then once she thought we were ready, she introduced us to our first banker, who we ended up working with in the long run, a local guy. So, and we got set up with Russ Klisch, the founder of Lakefront Brewing Company, sort of as a mentor. Just for any sort of advice we needed. We've had a couple meetings with him, just questions, just little things like brewery insurance to tank manufacturing. Manufacturer sort of suggestions and advice, and all the little details that we never really, would have thought of ahead of time. We kind of just got a little bit more familiarized through that.
we started doing some research early on. Started looking for kind of an idea for a name. This was something too we did pre us really knowing how to make beer too as well.
Where we were learning to brew at 842 Prospect, that campus, UWO campus area, was the Fifth Ward. So, and actually back in the late 1800s, there was a Fifth Ward brewery just about a block and a half away from where we had been brewing and where we learned to brew. So, after struggling to really come up with a name that sort of embodied what we were trying to do, Fifth Ward Brewing Company sort of just, it made sense. It sort of is a nod to the Oshkosh brewing history that we find so important to, what we do and why we're doing what we do.
Looking at properties, Ian and I called up some realtors, and they showed us a couple different buildings.
We saw an old crutch factory, which was pretty cool. A lot of just weird old antique buildings that you find in cities like this. Sort of.
So then about May of 2016, we made the decision to purchase 1009 South Main, knowing that Buckstaff was on its way to being demoed, and the Buckstaff started to come down, and then we started really moving forward with financing about 3 or 4 months ago, and then the Bucks Arena had been announced just about a couple months after we were starting to look into financing again.
So the building itself, 1009 South Main Street, it's 7,500 square feet. Currently we have planned about just under 2,000 square feet for tap room space, running along the north side of the building. A nice big, 26 stall parking lot. We're gonna have, it leaves about just 5,500 square feet for brewing area. Essentially, it's large enough for us to grow into to brew up to 30,000 barrels. I think. I mean, once we really pack it full of tanks, we'll have room for barrel aging, things like that, stuff that we want to get into from the jump.
So we'll also have a 2,000 square foot beer garden. We plan to fence in and have some games outside. Hoping that we can get a bar built next summer, as we should be just opening up closer to October, November. So hopefully next summer we'll have a bar out there.
Fifth Ward Brewing Company, our tap room we'll have 20 draft lines, continually changing. We currently have our half barrel pilot system that we're going to be using as much as we can. Hopefully once a week is the idea, every other week. Our system is going to be an oversized 10 barrel system, so we'll constantly be brewing new beers on there as well. The intent is to have sort of one-off per month, as well as our core lineup, and then as many on the small system as we can. Initially, we're going to be bringing in some guest taps from Wisconsin, as local as we can, just to keep the taps filled. But for the most part, it'll be about, I want to say, a 70-person tap room, 70-seat tap room. We'll have about, nice big long 35 seat bar, nice, casual, nice place to be, something that, people don't mind coming to hang out and, having a couple beers with their friends after work or whatever it may be. We've been working on these recipes for a really long time. We've been doing the homebrew festival circuits, serving beer for a long time. So that was something that we've really come to enjoy, is serving beer at festivals and getting to know the people that are drinking our beer and our customers or future customers and things like that.
Line of beers that we will have some culinary ingredients included into those. A couple examples are our saffron honey wheat. We have a chocolate mint porter. Some really well balanced beers that don't use those ingredients we don't showcase those ingredients in the beers. It's more of blending those flavors.
A layered, there's a reason for everything behind it. And we learned from a very early time that, for example, with our saffron honey wheat, it's not going to be a good saffron honey wheat beer if it's not first a good wheat beer. So it's all about sort of building on top of the solid foundations we're already laying with our recipes. And then, like you said, using interesting culinary ingredients and culinary techniques that you don't typically find in beer without making them gimmicky. I mean, that was sort of our thing from the start. So we didn't want to, we're not trying to be a gimmicky sort of food-inspired brewery. It's much more subtle than that. And same with freshness, like when we're going to be brewing IPAs, big IPAs, we want people to, we're going to throw that information out there. When it's fresh, we're going to be tapping that beer as soon as it's done carbonating, because we know that's when it's going to be best. And we're going to make sure people know that.
And then we also have been developing some grain bills for some other IPAs. So as for those who've been paying attention, the East Coast IPA and West Coast, and so we'll have all those varieties of IPAs. Not necessarily available all the time. Like we said, we'll rotate through those. We really plan to kind of do one-offs and experimental big batches, hopefully one new one every month, where we can bring in maybe a lager, and then these crazy IPAs, and then our imperial stouts, some of our other Belgian beers. We have some really good Belgian recipes. Tank. Yeah. So as you can see, Quality Tank Solutions is a manufacturer out of, they have their main office in Oconomowoc, and then they have a production facility in Marshfield, I believe. And we made a decision early on. We started pricing out Chinese-made systems, electric systems, gas-fired systems, steam-boiled systems. And then, really started looking into Wisconsin-made systems. and made the decision to spend a little bit more money up front to get a Wisconsin-made brew house and fermenters that will give us that quality. Now we are going currently with a 30-barrel hot liquor tank. We will have a 15-barrel mash lauter tun, and then we will also have, which just got updated last week, we went and met with Quality Tank Solutions, kind of did some finagling, and we ended up with a 15-barrel brew kettle with an external calandria. This will allow us to do a minimum batch of yielding 7 barrels out of that, so we can pump out some pretty high gravity for our core beers, around 15, 16 Plato. Those we can run a 15-barrel batch on. So, and then we will be looking at a 3 20-barrel fermenters. Like I said, we can pump 2 batches of a large beer into that, or a high gravity beer, and then a single batch of our core beers into that, and then eventually expand to 30-barrel tanks. And then the idea is someday that we could fit 120-barrel tanks in here, turning 5 turns in one day out of when we grow our system to help bring our capacity. Like we said, we want to be a place that everybody can come to and feel like home. There's a lot of roller coasters in this in entrepreneurship, so
Lots of letdowns.
Yeah, yeah, lots of breakups. And then gotta get one of those in there.